Good morning. Today we're in Leviticus 13, 14, and 15. Leviticus chapter 13, And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, a bright spot, and it be the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest under one of his sons of the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague of the skin of the flesh, and when the hair in the plague is turned white, and the plague is insight be deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is a plague of leprosy. And the priest shall look on him and pronounce him unclean. If the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and insight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, and the plague spread not in the skin, and the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean, but it is a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spread much abroad in the skin, after that he hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen of the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest, and the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it shall have turned the hair white, and there be a quick raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of the flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague from his head even to his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered his whole flesh, he shall pronounce him clean, and that he hath the plague. It is all turned white, he is clean. But when raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean. And the priest shall see the raw flesh, and pronounce him to be unclean. For the raw flesh is unclean, it is a leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turn again, and be changed unto white, he shall come unto the priest, and the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. He is clean. The flesh also, in which, even the skin thereof was a boil, and is healed, and in the place of the boil there be a white rising, or a bright spot, white and somewhat reddish, and it should be showed to the priest. And if when the priest seeth it, behold, it be a slight lower than the skin, and the hair thereof be turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out of the boil. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it is spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spot stay in its place, and spread not, it is a burning boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or if there be any flesh in the skin, whereof there is a hot burning, and the quick flesh that burneth have a white bright spot, somewhat reddish or white, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot be turned white, and it be slight deeper than the skin, it is a leprosy broken out of the burning. Wherefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of the leprosy. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the other skin, being somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up for 7 days. And the priest shall look upon him on the 7th day, and if it be spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stay in his place, and spread not in the skin, but it be somewhat dark, it is a rising of the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is an inflammation of the burning. If a man or woman have a plague upon the head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, it be in slight deeper than the skin, and there be in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is called a dry scall, even a leprosy upon the head or the beard. And if the priest look upon the plague of the skull, and behold, it be not sight deeper than the skin, and there be no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him up that hath the plague of the skull 7 days. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the skull spread not, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the skull be not sight deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven, But the skull shall he not shave, and the priest shall shut him that hath the skull 7 days more. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the skull, and behold, if the skull be not spread in the skin, nor be in the sight deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. And he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the skull spread much in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the skull be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair, for he is unclean. But if the skull be in his side of the stay, that there is black hair grown up therein, the skull is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that groweth in the skin, he is clean. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. And he hath his hair fallen off from part of his head toward his face, his forehead is bald, yet he is clean. And if there be in the bald head or a bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look at it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head, or in his bald forehead, as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean, and his plague is in his head. And the leper in whose plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean, he shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his habitation be. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the wrap of a woof of linen or woolen, whether in skin or anything made of skin. And if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment or in the skin, either the warp or the wolf or anything of the skin, it is a plague of leprosy, and shall be showed unto the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague and shut it up that hath the plague 7 days. And he shall look on the plague of the 7th day, and if the plague be spread in the garment, either in the wrap, or in the woof, or in the skin, or any work that is made of the skin, the plague is a fretting leprosy, it is unclean. He shall therefore burn that garment, whether warp or woof, or woolen in the linen, or anything of the skin wherein the plague is. For it is a fretting leprosy, it shall be burnt in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of the skin, then the priest shall command that to wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on the plague, and after that is washed, and behold, the plague hath not changed his color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It is fret inward, whether it be bare within or without. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be somewhat dark after the washing of it, and he shall rend it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appears still in the garment, either in the warp or the woof, or in anything of the skin, it is a spreading plague. Thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, either warp or woof, or whatsoever thing the skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed a 2nd time, and it shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in the garment of woolen or linen, either in the warp or woof, or anything of the skins, to pronounce it clean, or to pronounce it unclean. Leviticus chapter 14. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, This shall be the law of the leper in the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought unto the priest. And the priest shall go forth out of the camp, and the priest shall look, and behold, if the plague of leprosy be healed in the leper, then shall the priest command to take for him that is to be cleansed 2 birds alive and clean, and cedar wood, and scarlet, and hyssop. And the priest shall command that one of the birds be killed in an earthen vessel over running water. As for the living bird, he shall take it, and the cedar wood, and the scarlet, and the hyssop, and shall dip them and the living bird in the blood of that bird which is killed over the running water. And he shall sprinkle upon him that is to be cleansed from the leprosy 7 times, and it shall pronounce him clean. And shall yet the living bird be loosed into the open field. And he that is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes, and shave off all his hair, and wash himself in water, that he may be clean. And after he shall come into the camp, and shall tarry abroad out of his tent 7 days. But it shall be on the 7th day that he shall shave off his hair, off his head, his beard, his eyebrows, even all his hair he shave off. And he shall wash his clothes, and he shall wash the flesh in water. and he shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 lambs without blemish, 2 he-lambs without blemish, and 1 ewe lamb of the first year without blemish, and 3/10 deals of fine flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and 1 log of oil. And the priest that maketh him clean shall present the man that is to be made clean in those things before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall take 1 he-lamb and offer him a trespass offering and the log of oil, and wave for them a wave offering before the Lord. And he shall slay the lamb in the place where he shall kill the sin offering and the burnt offering in the holy place. For as the sin offering is the priest, so is the trespass offering, it is most holy. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, on the right hand, the thumb of his right hand, on the great toe of his right foot. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it into the palm of his own left hand. And the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil of his left hand, and shall sprinkle the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. And the rest of that oil that is in his hand shall the priest put upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, upon the blood of the trespass offering. And the remnant of oil that is in the priest's hand shall he pour upon the head of him that is to be cleansed. And the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord. And the priest shall offer the sin offering to make atonement for him that is to be cleansed from his uncleanness. And afterwards he shall kill the burnt offering. And the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the meat offering upon the altar, and the priest shall make an atonement for him, and he shall be clean. And if he be poor and cannot get so much, then he shall take 1 lamb for a trespass offering to be waved, to make an atonement for him, 1/10 deal of fine flour mingled with oil for a meat offering, and a log of oil, and 2 turtle doves, 2 young pigeons, such as he is able to get, and the one shall be a sin offering, the other a burnt offering. And he shall bring them on the 8th day for his cleansing unto the priest, and to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. And the priest shall take the lamb of the trespass offering and the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. And he shall kill the lamb of the trespass offering, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and put it on the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the thumb of or great toe of his right foot. And the priest shall pour the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and the priest shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is his left hand 7 times before the Lord. And the priest shall put the oil that is in the hand on the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, upon the thumb of his right hand, upon the great toe of his right foot, upon the place of the blood of the trespass offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand shall he put on the head of him that is to be cleansed, to make atonement for him before the Lord. And he shall offer 1 of the turtle doves, or 2 of the young pigeons, or of the young pigeons, such as he can get, even such as he is able to get, the one for a sin offering, the other for a burnt offering, with the meat offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him that is to be cleansed before the Lord. This is the law of him in whom the plague of leprosy, whose hand is not able to get that which it pertaineth to his cleansing. And the Lord spake unto Moses there, saying, When ye be come into the land of Canaan, which I give you for a possession, and I put the plague of leprosy in a house of your land and of your possession, and he that owneth the house shall come and tell the priest, saying, It seemeth to me there is as if there was a plague in the house. Then the priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest go in to see the plague, that all is in the house be not be made unclean. And afterward the priest shall go in to see the house. And he shall look on the plague, and behold, if the plague be in the walls of the house with hollow strakes, greenish or reddish, which are sight or lower than the wall, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house, and shut up the house 7 days. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day, and shall look, and behold, if the plague be spread in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take away the stones in which the plague is, and that they cast him in an unclean place without the city. And he shall cause the house to be scraped within round about, and they shall pour out the dust that they scrape off in the city in an unclean place. And they shall take other stones, and put them in the place of those stones, and he shall take other mortar, and shall plaster the house. And if the plague come again, and break out into the house, after he hath taken away the stones, and after he has scraped the house, and after it is plastered, then the priest shall come and look, and behold, if the plague be spread in the house, it is a fretting leprosy in the house, it is unclean. He shall break down the house, the stones of it, the timber thereof, and all the mortar of the house, and he shall carry them forth out of the city into an unclean place. Moreover, he that goeth into the house all the while that is shut up shall be unclean until the even. And he that lieth in the house shall wash his clothes, and he that eateth in the house shall wash his clothes. And if the priest shall come in and look upon it, and behold, the plague had not spread in the house after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, because the plague is healed. And he shall take to cleanse and he shall take to cleanse the house 2 birds, and cedar wood, and scarlet, and hyssop. And he shall kill the one bird in an earthly vessel over running water. And he shall take the cedar wood, and the hyssop, and the scarlet, and the living bird, and dip them in the blood of the slain bird, and in the running water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. And he shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, and with the running water, and with the living bird, and with the cedar wood, and the hyssop, and the scarlet. But he shall let the living bird go out of the city into the open fields, to make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law for all manner of plague, of leprosy, and scall, and for the leprosy of a garment, and of a house, and for a rising, for a scab, for a bright spot, to teach when it is unclean, and when it is clean. This is the law of leprosy. Leviticus chapter 15, And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say to them, When any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue he is unclean. And this shall be his uncleanliness in his issue, whether his flesh run with his issue, or the flesh be stopped from his issue, it is uncleanliness. And every bed whereon he lieth that hath the issue is unclean, and everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. And whatsoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat hath issue shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And he that toucheth the flesh of him that hath the issue shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And if he that hath the issue spit upon him that is clean, then he shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that hath the issue shall be unclean. And whatsoever toucheth anything that was under him shall be unclean until the even. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And whomsoever he toucheth that hath an issue, and hath not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean till the even. And the vessel of earth that he touches with hath issue shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. And when he that hath an issue is cleansed of his issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and bathe his flesh in running water, and it shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to him 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle in the congregation, and give them unto the priest. And the priest shall offer them, one for a sin offering, the other for a burnt offering. The priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord for his issue. And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean until the even. And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation, there shall be washed with water, and be unclean until the even. The woman also, with whom man shall lie with, the seed of copulation, that they both bathe themselves in water, and be unclean until the evening. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the evening. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whatsoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And if it be on her bed, or anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, it shall be unclean until the evening. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean. And if a woman have issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation, she shall be unclean. Every bed whereon she lieth all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation, and whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her separation. And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes, and shall bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. But if she be cleansed of her issues, and she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day she shall take up unto her 2 turtle doves, 2 young pigeons, and bring them to the priest, to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer one for a sin offering, the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her before the Lord for her issue of her uncleanliness. Thus she shall separate the children of Israel from their uncleanliness, that they die not in their uncleanliness, when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. This is the law of him that hath an issue, and of him whose seed goeth from him, and is defiled therewith. And of her that is sick of her flowers, and of him that hath an issue of the man and of the woman, let him that lieth with her that is unclean.